course, this wave, all tech innovation going on, this wave of horizontal and vertical integration, competition. First things are open and they're closed and they open again. We're going to discuss a little bit what's going on in the TV field. Before we start our discussion, I want to do a round of introductions, and let's start with Ajay. You're the CEO of Norwegian Media. Yeah, grab a mic here. And just by way of introduction, you do video hosting, device integration. You basically help operators and content owners to make it work. Is that correct?
Yeah. Good afternoon. I think as I'm seated here, we work in the middle of big and great companies such as these. We're a Scandinavian company. We're based in Oslo. What we do is everything that's connected to the design, engineering, and development of OTT streaming services, one on the video engineering side of things.
A very good transition to present to you some insights about the TV.
Applications, or making sure that they work very well on Samsung devices. This is what we do.
And so who are your clients? Are they operators? Are they broadcasters? Everybody? What's the main client group you serve?
It would be broadcasters and operators where the line between these entities are relevantly not there in these days. Anybody who wants to be on a connected TV device, whether you are an operator or a broadcaster, it's not relevant. And I think there's a lot of other digital services on platforms such as Samsung, and we work with all of them.
And what are completely new entrants to this market? Who wants to be on the connected TV that is not an operator or broadcaster?
Anyone who wants to make money. I think we're working with...
Yeah, but what kind of companies do you...
We're working with a range of companies. To give you a few indications, we're working with SourcePoint, which is an American company that does privacy validations with smart TVs. We're working with a company, IAS and Mode. These are companies that do ad verifications to make sure that the ads are actually played back and they're verified according to MRC guidelines. And of course, the ones who run the services at the most, and also the fast channel creators who are trying to have a unique user experience, or companies who want to integrate audience interactivity within connected TVs where a second screen is not relevant anymore. So we kind of help design and engineer such kind of direct voting and polling surveys and services.
We'll come back to that, because both this user experience design is super important in this whole field, but also the fact that once you open up a connected TV, other players can enter the market that are not the traditional TV players, which is interesting as well. Next to you, Shalini Koshai, Head of Business Development for Europe for Samsung, for the media and TV area. Now, I think everybody knows Samsung was really big, we just saw a big bubble. I understand that, I just looked it up just to impress myself. Samsung has 1.4 million employees. It's like a country, right? And it's GDP, 40% of the GDP of the Netherlands, I'm Dutch, is Samsung. And basically, if you don't use the Samsung TV, you lose out in Europe on a lot of the audience, because you are around in all the countries. Can you tell a little bit about the Samsung in Europe experience and who you work with?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So in Europe, if you look at our scale, we have over 50 million TVs in Europe right now. We've been market leaders worldwide for the last 17 years in TV manufacturing. So, and then who we work with in Europe is that we're very closely aligned with the HQ in Korea, in Seoul. So all of the product development, the corporate strategy, that happens there, but of course we and all the other regions feed into it. And what I specifically do is a small part of the Samsung ecosystem, right? So the main business is still the hardware, right? But Samsung has started investing into its services. And so that's the part of the system when it comes to TVs that I look after.
Yeah, so as a TV manufacturer, you directly work with broadcasters and operators as well to make sure they come onto the screens.
Absolutely.
And if I understand correctly, last year you suddenly had so many more operators join, and previously you was mostly broadcast. And can you tell a little bit what's happening there?
Yes, so last year was really interesting for us. It was my first year in Samsung as well. And historically, most of our placement partners, as we call them, the partners who invest in prominence on the home screen of Samsung TVs have been direct-to-consumer OTTs. Netflix and Amazon have done it for years. And last year we saw a lot of telcos and operators being interested in that kind of visibility on our TVs. So that was the big change that we saw, especially driven, actually all markets, but Central Eastern Europe suddenly sort of came up quite big. So a lot of telcos from that part of the world started showing interest in being prominent on our TVs. And I think it's a part of the change in their distribution strategies. Which to be.
And we'll talk about it later because, of course, there's some companies think like we'll develop our own services. We do everything ourselves, and some say, oh, let's just go to Samsung. We'll see what happens. Chris van der Linde, Director of Entertainment and Entertainment Platforms at Liberty Global. You all know with Liberty Global about to take over Telenet, I understand, in Belgium. Took over part of Vodafone.
I think there's some forms out there that's been submitted to SEC.
The news is buzzing about, new takeover. You take over a lot of companies, right? It's a huge company. You have both content like Formula One and things like that, but you also have the operator networks across Europe. 6 countries, I think?
I think we're quite comfortable with the fact that you are linking us to Formula One, but it's actually Formula E.
Formula E,
it's always cool to
completely different, not speaking.
But we're obviously, you could call us an operator. We're a big media company that obviously has an active M&A history. At the moment, we've got national champions. Our strategy is to create fixed mobile converged national champions. We've got obviously Vodafone Ziggo, Telenet, Virgin Media O2, and Sunrise in 4 big markets. UPC Slovakia and Virgin Media Ireland are the 2 smaller entities. But next to our kind of operating companies, we've got a big tech ventures portfolio with lead media investments, like for the broadcasters.
So basically they are investments, you just explore the landscape and you...
Yes, yeah, correct. Yeah, and what we are trying to do is to make sure that those investments are very close to the core business, which obviously is delivering communications, delivering entertainment, and creating an emotional connection with the customer so that they buy our services.
And when it comes to connected TV, you have close cooperation both with Netflix and Amazon Prime, right? You work directly with them.
We're in the middle of the ecosystem. We're previously was talked about the hypermarket, so we're the supermarket owner, and obviously we have to deal with the Coca-Colas of this world, so the Netflix and the Disneys. And on the other side, we obviously have consumers shuffling their trolley through our supermarket. And the key thing is to make sure, so we're friends with everybody. We're trying to make sure that we're providing the right reach. Our services are provided through connected TVs. We obviously also got our own operating system based on RDK, where we're aggregating, where we're bundling. The previous panel was obviously full over it. So we're friends with everyone, because in the end what we need to make sure is that what the customer loves to watch, that he can actually watch that.
So you also work directly with Samsung then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
We're friends with everyone.
All friends in this room.
by the way, we're nowadays a bigger mobile company than we are fixed. So obviously our relationship with Samsung is big already from the device point of view.
There you go. Martin Lettner, Head of IoT TV Service and Platforms for Orange. Orange, as you wish. Tell me a little bit what you do, because you're very much on the technical side, making sure that everything works, right? So we'll talk about it more later, but what is your work right now? What keeps you up at night?
Okay, so our responsibility, my team is responsible for video and TV platform and devices. So we are providing set-top boxes and devices on Samsung, Tizen TV and other connected TVs. So this is where our focus is today, and we are launching new connected TVs so that we can provide all the customers our service on the device they have at home.
Yeah. But making it all work is one of the things in this landscape, right? Because there's also different devices, there's legacy set-top boxes, there's a lot to do there.
That's a big challenge. Yeah, definitely. The more devices we are serving, the more time and money consuming it is. We are trying to focus on quality, so the subscribers have equal experience on any device they are using that. We have created one Orange TV concept, so any device you purchase, you see the same user interface actually. And managing all the different devices, different lines with different vendors is very complicated to maintain the certain level of quality we want to provide. That's a big challenge.
And I can imagine you wish to service everything, every device, every platform. You also sometimes choose to not service the platform or device because it's simply too small in your market.
Definitely, that's necessary because you cannot focus on everything. So we are carefully looking at the market, seeing what's on top of the market.
Yes.
Samsung was our first connected TV launched, and we definitely won't serve everything.
Okay, we'll come back to that as well. And then last but not least, Quico Vivas on my left, VP Strategy and Markets for the United Group. You are active in Central Eastern Europe, 8 countries, telecom, content owner, but also running its own circle of content, right? You have
Yeah,
the
precisely.
you have to, yeah, explain.
I will try to do my best. Yes, I think it's United Group is a company that you rightly said is focused mainly in the southeastern of Europe. So we have operations in Yugoslavia, plus Bulgaria, and plus Greece mainly. And then we have like 3 probably different big chunks of what business comes from. One is we have a strong telco operations, both fixed and mobile in all the markets. We operate with different brands, with Nova, Telemach, Vivalcom, etc. We have a very strong media presence as well. We have strong media outlets with very big assets in all these regions. So we own Sport Club, we own a lot of, let's say, different free-to-air and media houses contents. And then we also have one which is connected to what we're discussing right now. We have a very good research and innovation center, which is called United Cloud. I'm happy to have a couple of my colleagues here, which are the ones helping. I think you mentioned very well before the difference between the people that decide to do all by ourselves or that we go to Samsung. So we are probably a little
You're on the other side of the spectrum,
so
yeah.
we have a very good center in which
So you have your own Eon TV platform, you have your own over-the-top STB,
yeah.
you develop it yourself, you roll it out yourself, you basically still control that whole world for your consumers.
We try to control it end-to-end because we believe there is a big differentiator in the market. We have the synergies and the focus of one particular region, which allows us to be quite energetic on that. And I think we're very proud of the way that we are operating. Because I come from Vodafone, also a telco player, in which we, of course, at pay TV.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you just sold your TV towers
We just sold our TV.
to Saudi Telecom for 1.2 billion, so you have money to spend. Yeah, the telco towers.
That's what I like to believe.
Exactly.
That's what I like to believe, that we have enough money to spend.
Yeah, no, but it matters, right? You have cash.
Now we do,
And this
yes.
sort of stuff, yeah. All right, I'm just curious about this audience. Everybody here sort of feels in the center of this ecosystem, and everybody also here feels that they should, be in front of the consumer and own that interface and be their guide. Now, who here in the audience would say, okay, I'm also in the pay TV business. How many people here are in the pay TV business? Quite a few, huh? Yeah. And how many here are operators? I mean, some people are operators and broadcasters, but how many are operators, telco operators and broadcasters? Just look around, later on you'll talk to each other and figure out. Manufacturers like Samsung, in the hardware part. You own
That's great.
Well, you're in all of them, exactly. Now, let's dive into the discussion because, first of all, I think if you run a pay TV, service over set-top boxes, and you see this world of the internet coming, it's been 25 years, so it's not new, but things are changing, IP is taking over, consumers are changing their habits. My kids now seriously watch TV with their earphones in on their mobile phones and don't even go to the big screen anymore. So things are happening there. Why has it become so important to be on the connected TV that even if it cannibalizes your own services, you have to do it? Start with you, Shani.
I'd say there's a few reasons why everyone, whichever category of content provider you are, whether you're an OTT, whether you're a broadcaster, whether you're a telco or an operator, why you need to be on connected TVs. Firstly, it's the scale. So I'd mentioned how many TVs we have all over Europe. And if you look at all of the combined TV manufacturing, CTVs and sales, scale becomes higher and higher every year. So the scale is a big factor for the services to be on the...
So it's scale in two ways, right? So it's scale because if you have scale, the cost goes down, but it's also scale that people can scale outside of their own territory and reach more people.
Exactly.
And if they stay within the space where they can
So
spend.
let's talk about reaching more people, right? So new content acquisition, right? So that's another reason why investing or making that investment to be on CTVs makes more sense. You have your existing subscribers, but you can bring on more subscribers as well. Then of course we see that most of the content consumption is happening on connected TVs, right? So we see streaming increasingly is viewed on connected TVs. And so that's another reason to be there. Then finally, the visibility on the TVs, so the ease of finding your app on TVs. If you do want to take down that route, go down that route to be on the first screen, that's also another option. So I say those would be the primary reasons why content providers will also seem to be on CTVs.
And Ajay, what do you think? Because you made a point, thanks to Ophelie's fantastic research before, that you feel that one of the reasons is to focus on this one screen, have an only screen strategy. So you have to be on the connected TVs because you want to be on this big screen, and actually the other screens are not so important. The big screen is so important, right?
We live in a world that everyone's important, so I think the idea of I think connected TV is getting a lot of spotlight right now because it's up and coming and it's more fragmented and people are trying to find their space in it. It is a rat race, so which means that everyone's trying to be on the home screen, which takes a lot of effort and money and investment, where the ROI is still growing. The graphs are going higher, but then mobile has existed long enough, the web has existed long enough, which means that the ROI on these platforms are more stable and they're more secure. And where there's investment is where there's opportunity. In terms of connected TVs, we're seeing a lot of companies want to be involved. The investments are limited. They want to get the best of worlds where they're trying and testing the market. It's still quite new. I think there have been 3 waves of people trying to be on connected TVs. I think 10 years ago when they came out for the first time in 2012, a lot of people got in there, got their hands burned, came out of it. It was really fragmented at that point in time. There was a lot of money put in.
Fragmented user interface was terrible, and
It was a new platform, and as with all technology, it just took a lot of time to become strong as it is today. A lot of companies who either made it better in the next round, 4 or 5 years before the pandemic, saw another range of investments happening. But what's happened after the pandemic is when you say that connected TV has become central to the household, it doesn't mean that mobile has reduced. It's just added to the ecosystem of communal viewing of content within the family, within the home, within the living room. So that's a new revised concept, and it's also due, I say it's due to the pandemic, where people spend time at home. People used old TVs during the pandemic, and the supply chain is just, it's exploded right after because all the TVs have been delivered finally in 2022 and 2023, which means that a lot of people have actually bought TVs after not buying TVs for 3 or 4 years. So that kind of investments from the consumer has helped with 50 million devices in Europe, which is way more in terms of the TV devices, but the operators are spending a lot of time and money on boxes still. So for me, a connected TV is anything that helps a TV be connected to the internet. It could be a box. I don't see the difference between them. It could be Fire TV, it could be anything really. And to differentiate that is difficult because you could be streaming via a box on a smart TV, where the smart TV's relevance is limited at that point in time. But the enormity of the meaning of connected TV needs to be first understood, and that is quite large in itself.
And to be honest, for consumers, it's getting quite confusing. I think we all have family members that need to be helped. Okay, so Apple, there's a box, and then Amazon is not a box, it's just a password. And where is my normal TV? I know we do a bit of taking care of our in-laws in that field. For you, Martin, liberty has to be internet native. That's what you have said.
I think first on the previous point, because we were getting hung up on connected TVs. Sorry, Chris. It's not about whether the TV is connected or not. In the end, big screen is the best way to consume content. And I think we definitely when we get content in a high definition and with Dolby Vision and with Dolby Atmos, it's great. And who's making the TV connected, or how those streaming services come to the TV? those are going to be determined by the ease of use and the UX. So I think Samsung is doing a great job in terms of building the UX that is really appealing, especially to cord cutters, because it gives them the ability to go quickly to the apps. And I think historically operators have been probably sluggish with regards to embracing OTT apps and onboarding them into the platforms. Obviously that has changed. Alejandro from KPN earlier said already that they even have a streaming only proposition. But connected TVs is just technology. In the end, big screens are important. Who makes the TV connected? Yeah, that's just a race who builds the best user interface and who has all the relevant content the customers want to watch. The best UI is no UI. The customer doesn't want to go through UX. They want to go to the content.
But it's interesting that in the market, you need so much money to roll this out over different markets. There's so much technology involved. There are really big players involved, and that one of the key things is actually the user interface and where is
And the content.
Where are the most fantastic user interface people in the world right now? Do you guys know? I don't know.
Come on. No, I think so. Indeed, we're currently sitting on connected TVs also as a defense play. People that don't want our box, they obviously are more than welcome to consume content that we natively provide through Samsung devices, Android TVs, and such. I think also coming back to the aggregation panel from the last panel, we want to make sure that customers do not have to go in and out of apps the whole time and learn about different UIs. The difference between connected TVs at this stage and, for example, my iPhone is that at least there's a consistency on my iPhone of the UX between the different apps. And Apple's very bullish about that, and that's not happening in the connected TV space. HBO Max, the way the back button behaves, the way I need to access Netflix, it all works differently, and customers need to continuously learn about new UIs. And with meta searching, you can right now discover content agnostic of the UI in the same way side by side. So those UXs that really give a neutral view of all the content that are prioritized towards the preference of the customers, those are the UIs that are the best. And we try to build
and everybody wants to put this layer between the consumers and themselves.
I just want to say something about the UI in Samsung. So we are number one for years and years because of the investment in hardware and technology, but also the investment in UI. So we're always looking at the UI and trying to improve the user experience.
If I understand correctly, it's different region to region, right? It's not. It's different region to region. It's not the same globally.
So the main UI remains the same. The apps change region to region.
Okay, but the main UI
Remains the same. Yes.
Now, both for Cricket and Free Market, you are not just thinking about TV. I know you have we put it EU Connect and EU TV, so you have different places where you are helping the consumers, and it's also by putting Wi-Fi in the homes and connectivity all over, and you have an IoT branch even. Could you tell a little bit about the IoT branch, because it's a bit beyond the standard, let's put a TV and put stuff on it.
Yeah, okay. The team I manage is quite a mix, so the IoT is totally disconnected from the TV business, so I'm not really sure that is out there.
What happens there?
IoT, we are providing this IoT for B2B customers, for the industry, so we are providing different measurement devices, measurement technologies. We are creating end-to-end connection, providing hardware, connectivity, the platform which is collecting the data from the devices. And then we are developing presentation layer, the dashboards, alarm certification for the customers, so they don't know what happened with their industry.
Let's, I mean, it's a separate branch now, but it seems expertise that could work once smart home services become part of this connected TV world, right? Because what's the hub in the home?
Yeah, sure. That's a very good question. Actually, we decided not to focus on the smart home now because that's a very hardly tangible market. If you are talking about connected TVs and different UI and different applications, how complicated is it for users to accommodate to each new applications and new version of application? That complication in smart home is several levels higher. So there were. We as Orange Slovakia never tried to provide smart homes or develop our own smart home solutions. So because we consider it to be very, very complicated for the end user. So we are focusing on B2B partners.
What about you? What does your group do when it comes to
So I think the operators and the telco approach has been to try to benefit from the mess that you rightly described before. So I think the market in terms of content platforms at some point will consolidate. So the operator side of that has been trying to leverage as much as possible with business that probably is not that accretive. You need to actually cross-sell to the things. I think United Group is different because it's not a telco company that has gone to media, which we have a lot of examples of how well successfully people have done it. So we have very strong telco presence and very strong media presence. We have #1 TV stations in markets, etc. So I think for me, the E.ON brand that we have in terms of TV platform is quite relevant because it's where both sides of the business come together. So with the media outlet that we have, with the things that we produce in terms of content, and the telco experience comes together into one window of experience, UX, UI, call it whatever, and that for us is E.ON. So that is why I believe that we want to have it on a proprietary basis, and we invest so much in ensuring that it's a seamless experience. Then you have two different ways to actually differentiate. One is from a positive experience, and we have a lot of things that my colleagues are developing in terms of things to increase the good experience of actually watching TV on a big screen. So we have, for example, one thing that I'm really enjoying is what we call sports mode, which you can watch a match, you can click a button, and then you have a lot of different information coming on the TV. So this amplifies
you have the right to the sports match yourself and add it, or is it you can also add it to a sports channel that is not?
So we have it in the channels in which we broadcast sports, mainly with football, basketball, motorsports, and tennis, and then this augments, so to say, the experience because real time.
But these are your channels. It's not like somebody else is doing it.
It's our channels. Okay. Our channels. That's the positive differentiation, which we of course invest in terms of what is the next big thing. On the other hand, which is also related to what is the CTV versus set-top box experiences, is more the negative. So how do we ensure that we don't have negative experiences when the customers are using media with telco? And this is a bit trickier because it's not the same experience when you are in the set-top box and the CTV. You have different problems in terms of connectivity, in terms of different versions of the system releases. So this is the two angles, but for us it's very important to understand that E.ON is the places where two very successful businesses converge, which is the United Media side of our group and the telco side of our group.
And there, so you have sort of a vertical integration. You bring those together. Others say we'll focus on one thing and let others do the rest. The example of Sky Glass is interesting. They have their own TVs that even bring to the customer. So an operator, media company says let's also move into manufacturing. Okay, it's branding out TVs. What do you think about it from Samsung point of view?
So, I think that we live in a world, especially in the media and tech world, where everyone's doing everything. There's continuous backward and forward value chain integration, right? So Sky, as example, content company, operator moving into hardware, Samsung, hardware moving into operating system expansion.
There's not many companies moving into hardware though, because hardware is hard.
That's true, but the operators are now starting to follow suit, right? So I was saying, so Samsung doing integration in other ways, so moving towards content aggregation, moving towards OS expansion, then being a hardware company. So the point is everyone is doing everything, but we just have to see, can everyone do everything really well? Or should everyone just focus on their core competence? And then what I think of it from a Samsung point of view is that, we have a very clear services ecosystem strategy that we've continued to invest in over the last 4 or 5 years. So the app ecosystem was the first part of it. Then we have the Samsung TV Plus, which is our fast platform. Then we have the gaming hub, and then to your point of the screen being the center of the home, we want people to use the screen for anything that they want to use for video calls, for doctor appointments, for all of that, right? And so that's part of our services strategy. Then we have the OS expansion strategy. And so where we are is we're having conversations with operators, they're coming to us, they're telling us this is what they want to do. And we just have to see how our existing strategies aligns with their evolving distribution strategy.
Do you ever get a question, okay, I want Samsung TVs, but I want to have a different logo on it because then they're my TVs? Does that happen, that a really big media company says, I want my TV brought to people, even though it's a Samsung, white label Samsung TVs?
Yeah, but it's our TV, right? So, but we're talking. We are listening to them. It's where we're at.
I mean, this is more your
Yeah,
game, right?
this the key thing is that if we talk about aggregation, the bundling is obviously financial aggregation, but if we talk about content aggregation and bringing a unified content discovery to the customer, you need to own the platform and you need to control the platform. And I think what Sky did was really smart, because in essence what they did is they are not building a TV, they're building a set-top box with the panel, with the glass panel. And in the core, they're just continuing to do what they've already done within the set-top box. You just attach the screen to it. The beauty with Sky Glass is not just about, obviously it takes a lot of guts to go into that direction, because TVs there's a different life cycle rate, it's a different business. But they also changed the business model. They're not selling it just like TVs. They're selling it like your set-top box subscription, which also...
TV as a service.
Yeah, TV as a service, and you see that in the car, in the automotives, you see that in other services, is that, okay, instead of buying a €1,500 Samsung TV, I can actually pay £40 extra and I can get a Sky Glass. And if I like the experience but I don't need a TV, I take the Sky Stream Pop. So from that perspective, and they also open source it there, so it's something that they uploaded the TV extension to the RDK community. So we're obviously following that closely. It's quite interesting because
is it something that you're
the best way to kind of own the aggregation is to own the screen, and the best way to own the screen is to be the screen. Yeah.
So this is a strategy that your group could also consider in different areas?
I think nobody is excluding strategies. I think from our perspective, it's probably we're quite comfortable at the moment. We obviously shrunk our set-top boxes to half the size of my iPhone, which means it's not a set-top box but a streaming box actually, giving all the pay TV and the OTT and the apps and the unified experience, and we're turning any screen into a connected TV. And some of them are already connected, and some of them are not. And we're trying to also put the choice with the customers and convince them that our UI is better than others. But obviously that's I think it's quite a bold move that Sky did, yes, absolutely, together with Google.
And if I may, I think I totally agree with Chris, and I think the trade-off that you find is clearly now we want to have a seamless experience regardless which is the way that you access to our platforms, and I'm sure that Liberty is the same. And the key problem that we face as operators right now is that whenever there's an app installed in one of the connected TVs, our ability to control the experience is limited. So the trade-off is, what is the benefit of actually having that experience on TVs as controlled as it would be on a set-top box, versus which is the financial burden to get into that space, and then it is highly unlikely that actually a UG United Group TV will ever compete from a brand perspective with Samsung. So that is for me the trade-off. So you ask me, should we have a good experience, or should we could warranty to our customers a good experience with a connected TV app that it would be equally as good as a set-top box? Potentially that would be a space that we wouldn't get into, but I think that it's something that more and more operators are starting to realize that trade-off is important, and it's so important that might be starting to make sense from a financial perspective.
Because STBs are expensive, hard to run, go out of legacy problems.
You need to make
how long can you
have
maintain them?
already
You
systems,
have to go pick them up and install them because people don't know how to. A lot of work.
yeah. Precisely.
But those life cycles also exist in connected TVs. Let's not forget that the average TV after 4 or 5 years, your apps are also not being updated anymore. Android TV, I think, is...
That's short, 5 years? Like this really big Samsung TV, 5 years you have to
After
buy
5 years you done it. So and the obligation is then with the customer to actually replace the TV or to update it. And I
then
think
buy that and keep it for 10 years and then call every week or something.
I think the edge that operators have to bring is that we own that platform within the home, and we have the responsibility to replace that. Historically, by the way, we've been pretty bad at that, but with devices becoming smaller, lower in cost, our latest generation kind of set-top box, which is the streaming device, we already surpassed 1.5 million just within a year, just pushing that device into the market, because that's how customers appreciate you if they've got the latest innovation sitting inside their home. Yeah.
Okay, so you have 1 million and more people working on it. You have completely your own ecosystem. You have a huge company. You two guys are helping solve what goes wrong, right? Where the problems occur. What at the moment is the biggest problem? What is the thing that, is it just money that needs to be spent to keep everything up to date, or is it a real problem of different operating systems clashing and What do you think?
Yeah, the real complication is the many operating systems we should be present on. So we need to focus on different varieties, on different models, and that means we are developing several branches of the same applications and try. Of course, we have some common core of the application. We try to unite as much as possible, but it's not to 100% extent. So the small difference is the last 20% in each application. Tuning up the performance, that's the biggest challenge we are facing, and we are just focusing on too many directions.
There's just too many different ones. That's
Exactly.
And you already mentioned before, which means sometimes we try something out, we keep it up to date for a while, but then decide this will stop now.
Yeah.
What if you stopped? What is the...
That's happening. Sometimes the story is strange, like one affiliate from Orange, so Orange France is selling a TV stick very successfully, and
The sticks, the connected...
the USB stick, and somehow we tried, we launched it, but it didn't work in our market, so we decommissioned the product.
Yeah, so it was an experiment and then decommissioned. Well, you have a lot of clients in this space. What is the biggest problem they are facing? What is the struggle?
I think there's a lot of opportunity.
You're
struggle, right? I think I'm going to agree with all of them. I think whether it's a set-top box that has a beautiful glass and you call it Sky Glass and you invest a lot of money into it, get into the market of their space, they're doing the same. They're aggregating a lot of fast channels. They're running services as well. There's space for everyone. The consumer will decide. I think it's a business model question. Have you sold a couple of towers and have £1 billion in your bank account? And of course you can create your own Sky Glass and get it out in the market, pay the money so that the consumer does not need to pay and buy a device. I'd love it if you gave me a free...
I really love it that not every platform is a...
But that's the thing, like if you were giving me a box for free and we make it really...
Those are not free, by the way. You're seriously paying for glass.
I think you are paying for glass, but then the business model for a consumer, it's a mortgage. Yeah. Because it's a mortgage, it's free. But if I'm investing in a Samsung TV, I'm going to compare the shit out of Samsung and LG and Philips and Sony and say what's better, what's not. Think about it like crazy for that €500 difference between these devices. Choose Samsung anyway, because they're the biggest. And I think that... sponsored by Samsung. But I think that the idea of the consumer allowing their decision to showcase will showcase. I think, and the point is, for me as a person, that's my personal choice. When I buy a perfume from a perfume brand. I don't buy it from a clothes brand.
See, and they're very different because I'm honestly trying to think, what kind of TV screen do we have in our home? And it's huge and it's got all kinds of boxes and I think 6 remote controls and I don't know what screen we have. I don't even know if we have Samsung or not. There you go. It exists. People are sort of, once it's in the home, they forget about it. It might be, it might not be. I don't know.
I think it's an emotional decision when people decide to purchase a TV, just because Chris said the lifetime is at least 5 years, right? So it's not a detergent, that's less emotionally engaged decision, but a TV is a more emotionally engaged decision, I would say. So I think they would remember the brand.
Yeah, but I want to ask take some questions from but that TV that after 5 years in the main living room might get replaced by a newer screen, the other screen will go to the son or the aunt or the study or the workspace, and people will still ask, why is it not working anymore? That's all happens. I want to open it up for some questions from the room. We have another 15 minutes only. There you go. Who has a question for any of our panelists? I can keep talking, don't worry, but I want to give you the chance. Very specific strategy questions. Maybe you know something, I don't, probably, you all do. No?
Question for Samsung. 5 years, really?
Oh, there's one over there. Yeah.
No, it can.
Shall I come over there? Yeah, why not?
Best.
Yeah, take brave soul from the audience. There you go.
Hi there, I'm Petra from Eutelsat. I have actually a question for Samsung. It's a question for Samsung, or actually for the others as well. How does it work? I mean, I'm trying to understand where the limits of Samsung are in terms of amounts of apps that you can put on the TV, or if the operators actually do not have to be afraid that they would want to be with their apps and their services on a Samsung TV, and then Samsung goes and says, you know what, you want to be on my TV set because I'm in 50 million homes in Europe, you really have to pay for it, otherwise they're going to kick you out. So how does this all work?
Yeah, so think of it like a regular app store, right? Anyone can create an app in any app store. So any content provider of any type, OTT, broadcaster, operators can create an app and launch it in the app store. Anybody can do that, but if you want your app to be prominent on the TVs, then we need to have some kind of a discussion around it, because the home screen can only contain...
And discussion around it means you need to pay a lot of money to Samsung to be on the
Well, yes, that's investment in prominence, right? But even if you don't invest in prominence and you want to download a certain app that exists in the App Store, you can do that. So you just have to find it, go to the App Store, find it, download it, install it, and then you can...
So if you can do if you can do the marketing for your app because you have a huge network of people that love you and your brand and your app, then you can just put it on the Samsung TV, so people will go and find it.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can either just launch it in the App Store, or you can come and talk to...
I see several smiles around you now. Comment.
I think the key thing is they're monetizing the platform, and the platform presence is just growing because the TV is just a means to an end. So we're actually in the same business. We're monetizing our platform, and we're monetizing the base of a combination of UX and content, and also trying to build presence. They're doing the same thing. They're coming just from the other angle. If you don't have the content yet, because you got the content through the access to the OTT apps, but that's obviously a fragmented billing relationship that goes over the top. You got some fast, but in absence of actual customers paying for the content, you have to pay for you have to pay for it in another way, which means that the content owners or content creators have to pay for presence on those platforms. They have to pay for kind of prominence on those platforms. You pay for reach for the fast channels.
So new app.
Platform in the same way.
There's plenty of app stores where you don't pay to be on the in the app store, but you get revenue if you sell something in the app store. It's a revenue share, which is also profitable.
Even through the app store, you have to sign into online terms, right? Like if you think of it as any other app store. So Apple, you launch any app in the Apple App Store, Apple takes 30% for you, whatever.
Yeah.
They take. So it's a similar business model.
Well, how much will you take as Samsung?
We have different ranges for different business models.
Is it from 10 to 90% or even some?
No, it's quite reasonable.
30 to 50%? No. There's people in the room that know, right? 30 to 50%, something there? Maybe not. It's not a secret, right?
No, it's not. It's different terms for A-Word, S-Word, T-Word models, essentially. The online terms are different.
Okay. Does anybody know? Shout out now. Other questions? No? Oh, yes, please.
So, having been in the business for quite a few years, I'm a little bit surprised to hear that it's back to the content providers paying to be on Samsung. So, surely, to get access to local channels, you would have to pay to get them there, like any other distributor?
No, we don't. And content providers, like I said, they don't have to pay. They can launch their app in the App Store. And we don't pay anything to any app provider ever. No matter
So it has changed
no
then?
matter what type. I don't know. I've been in Samsung for a year. I don't know what kind of, but I don't think so. I don't think we've ever paid anyone to. So look, if you look at a fast platform, they acquire content, right? They have a content acquisition budget. I'm from the app. I look after the app ecosystem. We don't pay to acquire content.
Interesting. So things have changed.
Possibly. Things are always changing in our world.
All right. Yes, please. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question to the three operators. On the previous panel, we discussed meta aggregation and all of that. Don't you have to keep the set-top box for as long as possible to at least have a bargaining chip in that end game?
Who wants to go?
So I think it all goes down to the experience. So I totally agree with you that actually the set-top box, the maintenance, and to what extent do we have support on that is very important. This is why we have it, as we said, completely in-sourced in our case. But I agree with you that the more you go into that space and the more the experience and, let's say, the window or the operating system in which you access content is important, the more important metadata integration will be, because the content discovery is becoming more and more relevant. I think you mentioned something in the panel before on how relevant it is. We see a lot of different patterns in terms of how different customers with different ages, with Gen Alpha, etc., are actually discovering content in a completely different way. So in the case of United Group, it's clearly that E.ON serves as a platform for the overall experience from telco and media. And going back to my point before, this is why it's so relevant to have it in the middle of actually the operator mindset and the media mindset, because it's what is going to allow you to do it. The issue that we have right now, for example, with connected TVs is exactly this, that after 5 years, 6 years, we are not able to develop or to continue providing the service with an additional complexity from the operator side. I don't know if from a Liberty perspective would agree, which is customers are never going to blame Samsung for not having an operating app with the brand of E.ON or with Liberty. They're always going to believe that it's a problem from the operating perspective. This inevitably means that we need to invest into something that is not really value creation for the telcos, which is the set-top boxes. I mean, I think it's something we do in-house because it's a necessary evil that we need to have to provide the content. But should we have that experience changed from a connected TV perspective? I think it's a no-brainer that you want to focus on what is the usability and not that much into the hardware. A screen is always better than a small box.
And the toll game element is relevant as well.
The set-top box is just an anchor point of the platform. It's Wi-Fi in, HDMI out. It does not do anything except for providing an aggregated experience. And if you own the platform, you can own the aggregation. And the way to create aggregation is to create a common taxonomy, a common currency on the way you present the data back to the customer, the content. And we got some fantastic use cases where we actually get metadata from Disney, where we provide kind of a view into the Mandalorian in our interface. And I was presenting this a while back to a bunch of interns, and they were like, "This is not what the Disney app looks like." No, but we're providing you direct access to the content from within the same user interface. So it became, if you want to really play the aggregation strategy, which we want to be, we want to financially aggregate, we want to aggregate the content, so it's a unified experience, then you need to own the platform. And if you want to own the platform, then we don't build a TV, Sky or Comcast do, so we have to build a set-top box. And we'll make it as small as possible so that at least the customer doesn't see this 40-watt noisy big brick sitting on his cabinet.
As well as there are very good reasons for customers to use a connected TVs, there are customers who have very good reasons to use set-top boxes. So we are still providing set-top boxes. We decided to do Android operator tier, Android TV operator tier, so we own the launcher, we own the content, we are able to do aggregations. We are not there yet with all the aggregation, the metadata aggregation, but we see it, and that was one of the reasons why we decided to go for Android TV operator tier.
All right, but almost have to wrap up, so I'm going to ask my last question here, unless somebody is still... It's just yawning now. Stretching is the right word. The future. I mean, in the last panel we heard that, you know, the demise of the set-top box has been predicted for 10 years. Nevertheless, we do seem to be in this new age where things are changing a bit more rapidly than they have for a few years now. You all have a strategy, you all try to win. Let's assume you all do, it's not possible. Let's assume all these strategies work. What is the next new thing you're working on? How do you see the future? What is it that you think like, this is now so interesting, we have to look at it now, and maybe in 5 years we'll have a strategy for it. Who wants to go first? It's a difficult question, I know. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want, so with regard to the strategy for the next 5 years, it's about making sure that we create stickiness and emotional connection towards the customer, so that they also take a connectivity bundle and also the other services. I think and entertainment is that emotional connection. So we'll continue doing the path that I just sketched. The only thing that's missing in here is content providers and content owners, and them playing ball in terms of not wanting to go directly to the customer all the time, because there is fatigue about the number of subscriptions that customers has, there is usability issues from a customer point of view. In order to create a winning platform, and there needs to be competition, there needs to be Samsung, there needs to be Google, there needs to be us, there needs to be other platforms. But in order to create an experience that customers are willing to take, content providers need to be also more willing to provide access to metadata, continue watching APIs, bookmarks, favorites, etc. Right now they're all kind of still sitting inside their app, and that's the missing piece. Yeah.
if that's the missing piece, would the future be a consolidation in the content market to make that easier, or would it be more a standards, agreement on standards, so that you can be interfacing between
more APIs?
I'll go next.
Yeah, go.
So I don't have a clear answer, but essentially we would want to win together, right? Ideally, in an ideal world. But in terms of future, I just see more innovation, more change in more sophisticated forms of distribution for all types of content providers. I also see more innovation in content packaging, and I think things are just going to get more sophisticated, more better. But I think also innovation needs to happen in better content access and discovery for the users. So there's so many areas to evolve in.
And I bet at Samsung they're also thinking about better screens, 8K screens, bigger screens.
And connected to homes, really. IoT is big for us.
What do you have for?
Yeah, I think operators have a very strong ecosystem to provide aggregation for the content. So we see that the streaming services, OTT players are expanding dramatically. So users at home in their living rooms, they need to decide which content they want to purchase. And the operator with all the invoicing systems and all the services which they are already providing to customers can easily integrate into these ecosystems, all the streaming platforms. So then customer can have kind of pay-per-view or choose which streaming platform is used, and then everything is on one single invoice, in one single application, and in one single unified interface, which is very common to the customers, and it doesn't need to change.
And you might have 2 or 3. You might have iOS and Android, and there might be still a choice of interfaces, right?
Yeah, sure.
Not that many, not
sure,
20,
sure.
or 100. Yeah. What about? I mean, I'm surprised nobody yet has said anything about this wave of AI coming over us, and language becoming an interface for almost anything, any service. In the field of interaction design, things are going to happen soon, right?
I think you read my mind. I think to not think about AI at this time and age is a naivety that I want to slap out of people. I think it's very, very important to believe that the consumer will choose the content that they want to watch, the subscription that they want to buy, the TV that they want to buy. I think the combination of all of this is only going to be with the consumer who has the money. Whether you pay it as a mortgage or you pay it as a down payment, that doesn't matter. I think when you consider the enormity of what AI even means, which we don't know, and if someone tells you what it means today, they're very smart.
It's very probable you could see anything you want with yourself in it, or with different voices in different languages. Things are happening, or you could just shout to your TV and it would finally listen and understand.
And AI is not about what the consumer wants, it's what the consumer doesn't know that they want, based on all of the other consumers that they are similar to or that they believe that they want to become. And I think using AI not just to design the user interface that the consumer is comfortable with, whether it be it Disney or Netflix or whatever else, whether you want to be able to choose and buy subscriptions, which is competitive in nature, which the consumer does not know about, or to buy a device in the future.
Tell me what I should buy.
I don't know, but if Samsung is not going to make 5 years, 10 years, I don't want to buy a TV from Samsung anymore.
It will be there next month, probably. The last one's.
We'll get you a set-top box.
That one's for me, I'm glad. Good.
Okay,
Oh, lovely.
So I think from an experience perspective, I think I'm not sure about AI so far, but probably because I'm struggling to understand it. I'm probably hoping for the slap that at some point will come to me. But I think in terms of content discovery, usability, etc., which I think, of course, AI plays an important role, I think the usage patterns are changing. And we are always thinking about, more from a media perspective than from a telco perspective, what is the future of TV, and people now kids use TikTok to watch videos, so is that a link into things that are format that are different? So I think that's an important bit. From more media perspective, we are producing a lot of content, and I still believe, specifically in our region, and I think that by extension it happens in any other region, the locality of the content is quite relevant, so there's still a lot of appetite for local content, and then we produce a lot of reality shows, contests, etc., local sports. We have exclusive rights for Champions League and for Formula 1 and things, but I think that the locality of that, the more local you go, the more relevant you would be. And then I've never been a gamer myself, but I still believe that actually gaming is the new wave of media and content, and that actually big media outlets that don't pay attention to gaming are probably going to be in the same space that big radio stations that didn't pay attention to TV in the 50s. So you see there's a lot of consolidation there's a lot of investments, there's a lot of actually regulations that don't allow Microsoft to buy companies in case they want to go there. But I believe that it's a very, very growing business, and it is becoming more sophisticated. AI is going to play a very important role, and storytelling is going to play an important role. So I think more and more we will see companies going that space as well.
Thank you for that.